Hey guys, Captain Instant here, and yes, I am finally back. I took a break after, life kind of got in the way, so took a step back from making videos, which unfortunately meant I never got to do a video talking about Godzilla vs. Kong for the film and novelization. So, I read the novelization. Well, I should say I watched Godzilla vs. Kong day of release. And of course, the novelization and Kingdom Kong and Godzilla Dominion were released after. So I wasn't able to read them until, after the film was released. Now, if the novelization had been released before the film, I wouldn't have read it. I would have just read the prequel comics. But still, it meant that I had to read everything after the fact. I watched Godzilla vs. Kong a second time at home with the family on HBO Max, which did mean that I could read. Well, no. So I watched it with the family the day after. Maybe it was that Friday. And then my friends Donnie and Ian were going to go see it, and they invited me. So I figured, hey, it gives me a perfect time to read through the prequel comics, the novelization, before seeing it in the theaters again. So I already gave you guys my thoughts on the prequel comics. So now it's time for my thoughts on the film and its novelization. So I absolutely loved the movie. It's certainly, I don't want to say it's divisive, but it does make certain decisions that will lead some people to question it. It is probably one of the best movies or kaiju films in terms of characterizing the kaiju. Now, I've said before that I absolutely love when the monsters have actual personalities and characters, and in this film, that shines through. Like, this is probably my favorite this is my favorite version of Kong. Even with that, ever since Skull Island even, but now this just cemented that. And honestly, yeah, this version of Godzilla isn't my favorite. I will always love my favorite will always be the Showa era Godzilla because of the arc he goes through from Raids Again, all the way to Terra Mechagodzilla. But still, though, he is amazing here. And which, of course, everything involving the monster stuff is praised. But the human stuff is where things can get iffy. Now, a lot of people are in agreement that the human characters here aren't the best. And while it does also pertain to the other MonsterVerse films, it's really apparent here. Now, as someone who's liked the human cast, or human characters of the previous MonsterVerse films, I didn't have any issue with the human cast here. And it goes for most giant monster films. When people say that the human characters aren't anything special, or are bland, I honestly don't really care, because I can follow the story just fine. I can get invested in the characters just fine. So I had no issue getting invested in the characters in the movie. But obviously, I don't speak for everyone, so it all depends on you. And segue into talking about the novelization. One of the things that I think is apparent while watching the film, and it's only confirmed when you hear what Adam Wingard has said, is that the film has been I'll just say whittled down to its bare necessities. The film as it stands now is everything that we presents everything we need in order to understand the plot and character motivation. And in that regard, yes, watching the film, you do know the plot. You understand it, you know what the characters are doing, what the ultimate goal is. But it is unfortunate because, and this is where we start getting into the novelization, unlike a lot of other novelizations I've read, is the version of the story. Now, with something like the King of the Monsters novelization, well, yes, that did add a bunch of stuff into the story. The film itself could easily stand on its own. The film could easily stand on its own. I don't want to say the novelization here is required reading, because it's not. Like I said, the movie, bare essentials of what you need. But the novelization just does so much in regards to adding more to the characters, showing us more of the world, tying itself more into the expanded universe of the Monsterverse. Very, very akin to King of the Monsters novelization, which, ran by Greg Keyes, so makes sense. But here especially, it feels like, with Godzilla vs. Kong, if you want the story, you read the novelization. And if you want the spectacle and the visuals, you watch the movie. While with something like King of the Monsters, if you want to see the story, you watch the film, and if you want to see it expanded, you read the novelization. That was the point I was trying to make earlier. And in terms of the novelization, right off the bat, we get a scene from Godzilla Dominion when he attacks the power plant, or oil rig. We actually see that from the human's perspective. And I really wish this was in the movie, we actually get to see Walter Simmons get the Ghidorah head, or I should say both Ghidorah heads, from Alan Jonah, acknowledging the fact that yes, Alan Jonah did give them the Ghidorah heads. It's never explained where the second one came from, so I don't know about that, but at the very least, it's a great follow-up to the end credit scene of King of the Monsters. And yes, you can easily gather, which is what I did, that Alan Jonah did give them Alan Jonah did sell them the Ghidorah head. But to actually see that, I think, would have been far more satisfying and a good cap off to that end credit scene. And we also get other things. We get more from the Russells, getting more into Madison's head, how she's feeling, especially after King of the Monsters. We find out that they're living with Mark's sister, or at least nearby. And also getting to see more of what's going on with Monarch ever since Sarazala died. And speaking of Serizawa, Ren, one of the biggest talking points about the novelization is Ren Serizawa. The character himself was first referenced in the King of the Monsters novelization, where it was said that him and Serizawa didn't have a great relationship, and here we get more of the info. Now, in the movie, well, him being Serizawa's son is never really touched upon outside of the fact that he shares the same last name. Like, if somebody not in the know watching it, I'm sure could figure, oh, Serizawa, is he, I guess he's Ishiro's son. But then why is he doing all the stuff that he's doing? And of course, if you read the King of the Monsters novelization before Godzilla vs. Kong, you already know. And I don't know why they did this, but they never do anything with the fact that he is Serizawa's son. Like, out of all the things to remove from that story, I don't know why that would be it, because seeing Serizawa's son is a big deal and very important. But like I said, if you want to experience the story of Godzilla vs. Kong, you read the novelization. And in here, they go into great detail into why Ren is doing what he's doing, why he's working with Apex, his relationship with his father. And through there, we even get a nice reference to Godzilla Awakening. And if you remember from Godzilla Awakening, Serizawa didn't have a great relationship with his father because his father was off, working with Monarch, and he couldn't really go into detail on what he was doing. And it wasn't until he was on his deathbed where he was able to give him all the information, so they were able to make amends. And Ren says something along the lines of, oh, my father got a chance to make amends with his father, and I never got that chance. So again, utilizing the expanded lore. Yes. And also, we see that Ren isn't really too keen on Walter Simmons. So again, it's just, in terms of getting far more characterization and far more character moments, the novelization beats the movie by a lot. And we also get more information on... Oh, yeah, and I should also say, I don't remember if I said this in the Kingdom Kong, or in the previous video, when I talked about Kingdom Kong, but they can explain this, but right now I think I'd say it's a continuity error of, in Kingdom Kong, we see the Iwi being evacuated, but then in Godzilla vs. Kong, we're told that they refused to be evacuated. I find that weird. I do think there is a way to explain it, so I don't think it's a big problem now, but hopefully they address that. Yeah, as I've said, if you want to experience the story of Godzilla vs. Kong, read the novelization. It fills in so many of the gaps, gives you far more characterization, and also, like the previous novelization, it does a great job at connecting to the expanded lore. It also helps if you've read Kingdom Kong and Godzilla Dominion, as naturally those two are referenced the most. just as Aftershock was with the King of the Monsters novelization. And so, yeah, after all these years, I finally got to see Godzilla and Kong fighting on the big screen, which is, I only ever thought I would see on YouTube, on videos, with videos on YouTube. And to get an official movie, and not to mention, to have them team up and fight Mechagodzilla in the end, putting aside the fact that I'm seeing an official movie where Godzilla vs. Kong are fighting again, but to have those two team up and fight Mechagodzilla, Jesus fucking Christ. Greatest thing. Oh, reminds me, yeah, Mechagodzilla. So, I really like this Mechagodzilla. Personally, I think my favorite design is probably the Ready Player One design, but this one is also really good. And not to mention, he's given a personality, which I'm always a big fan of when it comes to Mechagodzilla, for it to have a personality. One of the reasons why Kiryu is up there as one of my favorite. I really like Kiryu. And the fact that he is, or it is essentially a new body for Ghidorah, I think is great. And yeah, we finally get to see the Hollow Earth. Can't wait to see that explored more. This film is very much the end of this era of the Monsterverse. I mean, all things considered, if the Monsterverse ended here, as much as I would hate it, honestly, it is a good endpoint, you know? We finally get to see the Hollow Earth. We finally get Godzilla and Kong interacting. Ghidorah is finally defeated. And Kong is finally given a home where he actually, more so belongs. And Godzilla, last shot of him is just... Last shot of Godzilla is him going into the ocean. Now, we do know that there are talks for more stuff. I mean, obviously, we have the Skull Island Netflix series. And Adam Wingard has discussed wanting to do a Son of Kong movie. Obviously, nothing definitive on what the next movie will be, but that is one of the proposed ideas. All around, I'm excited. We haven't heard anything on Toho's World of Godzilla, which I pray to God is still a thing. But still. If this was all we got with the Monsterverse, 4, in my opinion, solid movies, each one having their own distinct flavor, I guess would be a word to use. Their novelizations, their prequel comics, that all in all make up a really interesting, tight-knit, cohesive continuity. I would say, yeah, I do think the Monsterverse, as it stands now, is the best interconnected universe. Because not only do we have the films, but the comics and books also are important. They aren't just tossed aside at a whim. And we actually use, the Star Wars New Canon, Star Wars New Canon does. Or not do anything with them like the MCU does. I'm excited to see where it goes, and, well, Godzilla vs. Kong was well worth the wait. And go Team Godzilla all the way. So what did you guys think? Did you enjoy the film? Do you think the novelization is essential reading? Let me know in the comment section below. Until next time, this is Captain Henson, signing off.